understand that you're now entering into a business, that
Hmm.
you are in the business of not just being a writer or an author, you are now in the business of also being a publisher and running your own business.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unfiltered Voices, the podcast that is all about busting the myth that self-published is second rate. I'm Kelly Nissen. I'm an author coach and a self-published author, and I'll be talking to authors, illustrators, and other self-published industry professionals about their choices, their journeys, and everything in between. Melanie Hill, welcome to Unfiltered Voices.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me. I'm actually very excited to be here today.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm not going to stop or anything, but I'm just going to say we're laughing because I actually did stuff up beforehand, but that's okay. That's what podcasting and Unfiltered Voices is all about, not stuffing up, but just going with the flow. Anyway, a quick introduction of Melanie before we get started with the questions. Melanie Hill is an author, poet, editor, and podcaster. She loves book recommendations across cultures and is partial to ambiguous and tragic endings. Melanie is passionate about middle grade and young adult stories, spy stories, mysteries, and fairy tales. She's recently published her first middle grade novel, Jett Cooper, which is about a boy who wants to be an aerobatic race pilot. Now, there is actually so much in there as I'm reading this out because I typed it up without reading it, and I'm like, you're a poet as well, and you're partial to ambiguous endings, which I love. However, my question is about Jett Cooper. Um, so you said Jett is an aerobatic race pilot, which sounds really cool, but what actually gave you the inspiration for that? And in answering that question, can you tell us a little bit more about the story?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
sure. So I have loved watching aircraft since I was a young child. And I've always been fascinated by flying. Like even now to this day, an aircraft will fly overhead, and I always just, oh wow, I get distracted by them quite easily. Um, but when I was younger, I wanted to join the Air Force, and I did want to be a pilot, but I didn't have the aptitude. But I still
Mhm.
wanted to be in and around aviation. So I joined the Air Force as a supply officer. And over that career, which was 18 years, I supported many aircraft types. I now work for Boeing and I still work in military aviation. So I'm very fortunate that I still get to be in and around aviation on a almost daily basis. And and as someone who has been around aviation for a long time, I know that there are kids out there who are just as fascinated by aircraft and flying as I was. And early in my running career, when I heard someone say, write the book that you always wanted to read as a
Mhm.
child, I thought, well, what about a book about flying and kids that love flying and what could I do there? So the idea grew from there. And then as I thought about that, one day Jet kind of just walked into my head, and that was a very clear sign that I did need to write that story and I needed to write that book. So
Yeah.
but that was just the beginning, right? So I thought really long and hard about it, about the type of flying that Jet could do and what would make a good story. I also watched a lot of Red Bull air races, and then the
Mhm.
two sort of ideas started to come together. And I came up with that idea of a junior air race, like a junior competition. There are age limits on being solo pilots and stuff. So I did have to work away through that, but it is fiction, so we can make a few things up, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So Jet is of an age where he's allowed to fly solo though,
No,
or
he's
this is the
14.
fiction part. So
Yeah, so
that
16.
gives readers something to aspire to, and there's no saying that in the future that age might drop. You
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
true.
Like I dragon boat, and when my daughter first started dragon boating, you had to be 14, and then the age dropped to 12, and now it's 10. and they're
Oh.
tiny, the 10-year-olds. You see them in the boat and you're like, where are you?
Just,
So, stranger things have happened, but as you said, it is fiction. And but it's not far from the legal age anyway. But I can just see there'd be a whole host of children of all ages who would be just like, yeah, that's what I want to
that's,
do because
yeah.
you see those people. It's like jaw dropping. How do they
It's
do that?
death defying, right? It's
Yeah.
actually, it really is. And the closer those aircraft get together, the more risk there is.
Oh,
And it's an incredibly technical part of flying too. And to do it properly in the real world, you have to be super qualified.
yes, I would
So
hope so.
there's a lot of poetic license in the actual book itself. But yeah, but it's really dynamic to watch as well. It's good fun. It's fast, it's furious, and they're not flying very far above the ground either. So, the room for error is pretty small when it comes to the precision
Yes.
required to do it and do it fast and well. Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
fun.
the thought actually terrifies me, which leads me to the next question that's just popped in my head. So I'm going to do something I promised I wouldn't and ask you a question that's not on the script, but hopefully it's easy to answer. Did you actually go up in a plane doing any form of aerobatics as part of your
Um,
research?
So not as part of my research, but I did when I was in the Air Force, I used to look after the forward air control PC9s. I was a supply officer for the small team the small flight that did that, and I went flying with them a couple of times, doing what they call forward air control. So they would go and put markers on the ground for aircraft to come in and then do bombing runs a couple of times. And that's quite, I was in the single turboprops, very agile aircraft, very fast. And we were doing that sort of stuff. So while I have not been racing, I have flown at that sort of, zipping and doing loops and those sorts of things a
Yes.
couple of times. So
Oh, the
not
doing
quite the same, but similar enough.
doing loops, I get horrendously airsick. So just that thought is
Oh,
like, ugh. So, but you can dream through reading, right? So
yes,
even though I know there's
absolutely.
no way that I'm ever going to have that experience, for everybody else's sake, not just mine. Um, Reading Jett Cooper and about his experiences and that sort of thing, I can live that dream, right?
Mhm.
Through there, which is what fiction's all about. So you're an editor as well, is that
Hmm.
right? Yes. Um,
Yes.
so it's not uncommon for editors to turn to writing or vice versa. And I think the reason a lot of us go into editing is because of our love of words and writing. I do know a couple of editors actually who don't write. And
Mm.
that's also fine too. But a lot of editors do eventually turn to writing and publication. And you've done exactly that. But what inspired you to start writing in the first place, and why self-publishing?
Right.
So
Well,
two-pronged
I
question. Sorry.
so from no, that's okay because one leads into the
Oh,
other, right? So,
yeah.
well, I always wrote poetry, so I'm not necessarily someone who will say that I've always written, as in long form writing, but I've always written poetry, and I still do, and I've always loved the playing with words and making of sounds, and learning about poetic devices and analysis. So that's something I've always really enjoyed doing. And then
Mm,
after I had my fourth child, I was talking to my husband about what I was going to do. If I had the absolute freedom to do anything, what would I do?
yeah.
And that reminded me of my love of wordplay. And I was very much in the thick of reading picture books and
Mhm.
those sorts of things. And so I felt a very strong pull back to do creative writing.
Yeah.
And then, as a result of that conversation, I joined a writers group, and I kind of got involved in putting short stories into an anthology. And I'm a veteran, so I've worked with a veteran friend of mine, Jennifer Crane, and we published a book about the creative works of women's veterans,
Mm,
so that they could tell their stories in a different form. And that all that sort of work through there gave me the confidence to know that I could publish Jett Cooper, that it was something that was achievable. And
mm.
I actually did a skills audit before I decided to publish Jett, checked what I could and couldn't do. And the one area where I thought that I'd really probably struggle would be in marketing and sales, which has
Mhm,
turned out to be true. And,
mhm. It's the
but
bane of our life.
yes, yes, that's for me, that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
But I think in saying that, I think it's something that I recognize, well, I'm still going to do it, and I've got to give myself permission to make mistakes and to fail and to try things and for them not to work out. So with that in mind, that's really how I got to the point where I self-published Jett Cooper.
Yeah. Did you consider traditionally publishing it?
So I
Or
did. I submitted it, yeah, to
mm,
agents and publishers. It's an Australian story, so I only
yeah,
went inside Australia, and yeah, I had no luck. And I thought, well, it's a good story. I think there are kids out
yeah.
there who would like it. There aren't many stories around about flying for kids,
There's
and
not a lot, is there? No.
no, no. So I thought, no, I've worked hard. I think the story is a good story, and I'm going to
Yeah.
do it myself.
Fact, this is one of my, not really a pain point, but one of my little soapbox things is, you know, just because you can't get a traditional publishing contract doesn't mean that your work is rubbish, because
Mm,
thousands of manuscripts get passed over because they can only publish a limited number, and that number seems to be getting smaller.
mm,
And there's a lot of celebrities being published and that sort of thing, because at the end of the day, everybody has to make money. So um, I think it's your belief, and I encourage all of my clients to, they say, oh, like, should I bother with traditional publishing because it's so hard, or should I just go straight to self-publishing? And I'm like, well, it costs you nothing except a little bit of time and your pride
mm,
to submit to a traditional publisher, and you never know what might happen. But at the end of the day, this is a good story, and it needs to go out in the world. So how you choose to do it is, it's a choice thing. But I
yeah.
love, I love that you did a self audit, a skills audit. You said, didn't you? A skills audit.
Yes, a skills audit.
I haven't actually, like, we all do that, right? But I haven't heard that term before, and I'm like, I think I'm going to start using that now. So you did that skills audit and came up knowing that marketing was going to be difficult. Um, there are so, before you even get to the marketing stage, there's so many other things that you need to do and you need to consider. It's a lot of work if you want to do it well.
Hmm.
Um, and it's also not a decision that should be entered into lightly as well. And again, that skills audit is such a good idea. So what advice then would you give to anybody who has a nearly completed or completed manuscript, or just even thinking that they might like to write something? What advice would you give them if they're thinking, "Oh, I don't know about self-publishing. Should I? Shouldn't I?"
Well, do you know, I think it depends what you want to do, right? I think you have to work out what you want to do. Do you want to do a one-off book, or do you want this to be the start of multiple books? And I think that's a really good place to start.
Mm,
Because if it's a one-off book that you just want to do, and depending on what audience you want to reach, self-publishing is, I think, a bit of a no-brainer. To me, that's
yes.
like very, that's a very easy solution to the thing that you want to do.
Mm,
But if you want to do multiple books, then and you want to be a bit more in charge of your own destiny, think about what that means. Understand that you're now entering into a business, that
mhm,
you are in the business of not just being a writer or an author, you are now in the business of also being a publisher and running your own business.
yes.
And in doing that, I think you need to research the different types of print on demand services and
Mhm,
ebook aggregators. Have a strategy around, do you want to go into one area in particular, or do you want to publish widely? understand the trade parts of the books that you want to produce because there are particular, size books and particular things about the
Mm,
presentation of a book that you should understand, especially for your audience and your age group. And you want to have a quality product inside and out. So
yes.
get professional editors and designers and save up if you have to. And I
Mm,
think that's really important. Like you want something that looks lovely and that feels like a quality book.
mm,
And I think you really have to understand the financials and
yes.
the percentages in particular that the distributors and booksellers get when you do go through bookshops.
Mhm.
That's a bit, I think, a rude awakening to
I think
and
so.
what you will get out of
Yeah.
that as the publisher, what you will actually make and what your profit is, because I think that that is something not a lot of authors understand well enough.
Yes, I know
Yeah.
when I got my first statement from my print on demand person years ago, I went, "What? So, no, but it was sold for this much and they sold this number of
Yep.
copies, but then it just falls away, doesn't
It
it?
does.
They pay
Yeah.
so and this gets paid and that gets paid and that sort of thing. And I think too there is that general public perception that authors make millions of dollars. And that if they buy your book for 24, then the author is getting that $24.
Hmm.
Whereas
Yes.
in reality, there is nowhere near $24
No.
that's coming your way. Um, and yeah, so, and traditional publishing too, actually, just while we're on that, um, traditionally published authors don't earn huge amounts of money from their book sales. Basically,
Yeah.
it's all the other stuff that they do that they need to do in order to fund themselves to keep writing, right? But the thing is that, self-publishing, there's a lot of financial outlay at the start, and people need to know that your $24 book is not a $20 profit on that
No.
one
You,
book. So
sometimes you're lucky to get $1.
anyway, yeah, so I mean we could talk about, we don't want to scare people off,
No,
right?
no,
Right,
we don't. But
because
it's worthwhile, right? I really,
yes,
it's one of the things that I've really, learning the business of that has been something that I
mm,
have really enjoyed. And I'm surprised by how much I've enjoyed that and being a bit of
yes,
the master of my own destiny. I've
yes.
found that surprisingly fun to do.
You've got that control. You decide what your front cover's going to look like and all that sort of thing. But I think there's also, at the end of the day, there's that pride factor of like, here's my book. This has
Hmm.
got my name and I did this. And then when you get feedback or a review, and everybody, if you read a book, you should 100% you love it, you should review it. It
Hmm.
doesn't take long to put a review up, and independent authors in particular, I think, really value
Yes.
those reviews. And I've forgotten where I was going with that, but oh yeah, when you get that review or somebody says to you, I loved your book.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that doesn't pay the bills or anything, but it is that personal satisfaction. And at the end of the day, we do it for that little high.
Fully understand that now.
Anyway, moving on. So I asked you in the form that I sent out to give me a catchy phrase, and I loved yours because really relevant not only to your book but also I think to the whole self-publishing thing is fail fast, fly far, which is really hard to say fast. But I think, that fail fast, fly far speaks to Jett Cooper, obviously. But it's also really relevant to people who want to pursue a career in writing. Um, you do have to embrace those failures and learn from them and expect that you're going to make mistakes. But once you do that, you can, the world opens up for you. It's as far as you want to take it, I think.
Mhm.
So, what do you believe are the key qualities that make somebody an author, regardless of how they publish their work or what they write?
Um, well, I think if you tell, like, if you say it out loud, that's one of the first key things, right? Is actually identifying yourself and outing yourself as an author. That's really important. And it doesn't matter what reaction people will give you. You have to start walking the walk and talking the talk. So I think that's a really powerful first step. And then keep saying it. And the more you say it, the more it will you will think of yourself in that way. It's a very
Yes.
forward-leaning thing to do. And I think that's really important as a first step is
Mm.
identifying and then saying it out loud. Even standing in front of the mirror and saying it is
Yes.
good. It can be really helpful.
Practice saying it, absolutely, because a lot of people struggle with that. It's like if you've got one book out, great, you're still an author. If you haven't published anything, but you are actively pursuing that and you're writing, you are still an author. And I think
Absolutely.
some people, a lot of people, a lot of us have really struggled with that. It's like, oh, because you think author and you think all the big name authors and they've earned that right. Well, so have you, you know,
Mm.
that we all have. So I think that is, and nobody else has ever given that advice before. So I love that. It is, that power of self-belief, I think. Um, Related to that, but sort of same but different. What's you talked before about skills and that sort of thing. What's one skill that you think authors need but often don't possess?
Um, I think that there's a particular
Mm,
way you need to think about a story that you're writing, and it's to know the one thing that your story is about. And if
mm,
you write the one thing story first, then this is the most viable story type
yeah.
that you'll get a story and you'll get to the end, and a single protagonist with a classic form will get you the most economically viable form of story writing in the world. So if you actually just know the one thing your story is about and have clarity with that, that's really important because I see a lot of my clients come in, they're trying to do multiple things. They're
Mm,
trying to write some sort of murder mystery, but do it with a romance, and then there's an internal change arc as well. And
mm,
the question that they can't answer most of the time is tell me which one of those stories is the main story. What is that spine and what is that one thing the story is about? And they
mm,
really struggle with that. But the ones who can answer that question will get where they want to go faster and
mm,
they'll get a better quality outcome because they'll be focused on the one thing and they won't be trying to do too much when they're writing
mm.
their story.
Yeah.
And it makes things less messy. I've got a formula. I wrote this down. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah,
The
go
one I
for it.
use?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So this is my one thing formula that I use. It is when the inciting incident happens to the character or characters, they have to overcome this obstacle to complete a quest in order to the stakes. So, what's at stake?
Yep.
And if you can write that sentence about your story, that gives you who your story is about,
Mhm.
what happens to kick off the story, what obstacle they're going to overcome, and then what happens if they do or don't meet
Yes.
their objective. And if you can do that, you'll be 50% there. Every
Yes.
decision
And
gets easier after that.
absolutely. It also, I can see as you're writing, it stops you going off on a tangent and losing,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I talk about it in terms of what's the question in your story? What's your
Yes.
story question? And if people can't distill that, then they're going to go off track because it comes, and it's the same with yours. It comes back to if you've written a scene and that scene doesn't contribute to that question, then that scene has no business being in there. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
keeps the story tighter, keeps you on track. But yours also gives you the really nice bones for a pitch or a synopsis
Yes,
as
it
well.
it
So,
it does double duty. It helps
yes,
you,
yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
perfect. I think I might change. I think we've all got our process. Which again,
Yeah.
that's great, absolutely great advice. And I suppose that sort of feeds into the next question. If you could sum up the writing process in one piece of advice, what would that be? And that would be to have that, to know your one story,
Yeah.
and know where it's going and that sort of thing, which is absolutely perfect. So moving on, there you mentioned before you've been working in military aviation for 30 odd years or
Hmm.
so. Um, and you also, and you know what? I did not make this connection until you mentioned it. You run a podcast called Story Nerds, okay, which I have listened to and I love.
Oh,
Never made a connection because I'm shocking with names, right? So here comes the question. So everybody should get onto Story Nerds as well. Um, which of those two worlds, the aircraft operations world or the world of a writer's brain, is more chaotic?
so aircraft operations are way more chaotic, but I will say
Oh,
there are similarities, right? So stories have many components that are interdependent, and there are many combinations that, authors can use to create books. But the aircraft I support are incredibly complex, right? There are systems within systems, and that's just in the planes. We've got oxygen, life support, fuel systems, hydraulics, electronics, mechanical systems, and there's others as well, right? And then you've got all the stuff on the ground that you need to actually make those aircraft serviceable. And then you go
mm,
and put a person in it or people in them, and that's another biological system of systems. So they are incredibly complex and complicated. But I find that my military career in organizing and being in logistics actually helps me write stories because
yeah.
I love making sense of all of that complexity. And when I'm in the zone, I can see and I can feel all of the story elements, where they are and what needs to happen. And I'm very lucky. But I would say that the aircraft that I support, because of their complexity, is probably a way more interesting, multifaceted thing than an actual writing story. But I do see similarities, which is
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
nice for me.
Yes, that's good. And I'm sort of pleased to know that there is something more chaotic than what goes on in my head when I'm trying to write a story as well. It's like, oh, it could be worse. It could be worse.
Yes.
I love though too that you've drawn those similarities between what you do, what you've done in your career, and the process of writing. And I think it's an interesting exercise to do. I had a friend who was an editor as well, and she wrote fantasy, and she was a dragon boater. And I remember being at one of her book launches, and she drew this whole parallel between the stages of writing
Ah,
a story and the stages of a race and the different people involved in a race. And it took up the entire launch. But for those of us there that were dragon boaters, we're like, oh my God, this is fascinating. And I think you can draw those parallels as well in what you do. So yeah, okay. So moving on, I lost my train of thought. This has been the thing of the day, I think. Um, you work with a lot of authors, and you help, as we all do as editors, bringing their books out into the world. So you've done a lot of that before you brought your own novel out into print. You did say before that you have published other stuff, but this is probably your big venture. What surprised you most about being on the other side of the editor's desk?
um, well, there was actually, though, I'm glad you asked like that question. I thought I really had to think about it, which was really good. So
Hmm.
first of all, I think I have to remind myself that it is a significant achievement to write a book from first draft through to the final draft and then to hold it in your hands. And I think we all need to pause for a moment and congratulate ourselves for getting
Yes.
that far, because that is actually a big deal. And then the other thing that really surprised me was how much I was hanging out to get my editor's feedback.
Somebody else said that yesterday.
I was so excited and couldn't wait. I was nervous and I was dreading it. I was all of those things.
Yep.
To get the copy editor's feedback was something that I had, being on the other side of the desk, that I normally
Yep.
don't think about that. But being now on the writer's
Yes.
seat, I realized, oh, I need to be a bit better at that. I so need to be better at getting that feedback to my authors.
Yeah, and it is interesting though. So you took that as a learning thing for what you do as an editor, right? But
Yes.
I think it's also a real eye opener that um even if you're an editor, even if you're highly skilled at what you do and you pick up these gaps and mistakes and that sort in your client's work, it is really hard to do it in your own work.
Yeah.
And and I sort of think, the number of people that I know who are, authors, and they're like, oh, I did my copy edit myself. And I'm like,
Mm-mm.
I'm trained and you're trained in this, and we can't do it ourselves. So why do other people think they can? Anyway, but I also
I
love that
agree.
you looked at that as oh look, I'm actually in the other pair of shoes now. And oh yeah, this is how I felt. Maybe this is what I should be saying to my clients. So you've flipped it right around, which I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
is a lovely way to look at it. Um, so yeah, your skill set too. And when I was reading out your bio, I'm just like, oh my God, you've done so much. So you've worked across poetry, obviously. You said you've worked across animation as well, which is like, wow, that would be so painstaking, but yet also so satisfying, I
Yeah.
think. Editing, you've worked on anthologies, novels now. Which of those creative forms still feels most like your like home? Like this is your comfort area.
Writing poetry is the most comfortable thing for me, and I do feel the most at home when I write poems. But long form storytelling feels like an adventure, right? And it
Yes.
feels like I'm stepping out to choose my own adventure. Like I'm writing my own adventure sort of novel and I'm getting to choose what path I take.
Yes.
But whenever I'm having, moments, I revert back to poetry all the time,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
all the time.
Back
But
to
I
your
don't,
happy space.
yeah, but I don't share my poetry. I, I've had poems published, but it's not something I share a lot of.
Okay.
It's very, yeah, personal, and I think it's my comfort. Whereas
Yeah.
I can write longer form and go and get that critiqued, and I've got a thicker skin with that, but
Yeah.
not so much poetry. That's very much personal for me, and so I suppose that's why it feels a bit more like home. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Poetry is very personal. And I think um, unless you're just doing a basic copy edit, editing poetry is difficult as well because it is so personal to the author.
Mm,
So that's something to be mindful of, that in novels, in long form writing, you can have different interpretations depending on your background, but more so in poetry. I think you sort of got to stand back and relax a little bit. And I love that you said that, though, that writing novels feels like an adventure or a choose your own adventure, which I'm
mm.
going to stick another question in, which I think will be easy to answer for you as well. Plotting or pantsing? Which
Oh, well, what do you think? What do you think I'm
I'm
going to
thinking,
say?
if it's an adventure and it's probably pantsing, I reckon.
Oh,
Is
really?
it? No?
Oh,
No, you're the
no,
plotter.
I am a plotter. I am. I love plotting. In fact, I suffer from over plotting.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
And I think that just comes from having a logistics background and being a
Yes.
planner, like and seeing all of those things. So I think, yeah. So, but I am learning to be more of a pantser. I've realized that that is something, like I said, I'm an overplotter. So I need to let some of that go and I need
Yeah.
to learn, and I'm teaching myself to go with the flow a little bit more.
Ah,
And that's helping the flow of words. So
yeah.
yeah, I
I I love how we're the opposite actually, because
uh,
I am have always been very much a pantser. So for people who don't know, plotters do all the plotting and work out the story beforehand. Pantsers just fly by the seat of their pants, and you have an end goal in mind, but how you get there is completely unknown until you're in that process, right?
it's a
Um,
mystery, isn't it? A
yeah,
mystery.
and I actually thought, I'm going to, because I can teach people how to plot, right? But I can't do it
Yeah.
myself. So I thought, right, I'm going to develop this skill set. And it hasn't ended well. It's so hard to, it's like, okay, I'll do this, but then you have the character and the character wants you to go here, or you come up with a new idea and it's like, oh, I might do this. It's, oh, that doesn't fit in with my plot. So I might just go and change the plot. So I'm pretty sure that's not how it's supposed to work. Um, but it is interesting. We do fall naturally into
Yes.
into one of those, or into sort of a blend of the two, depending on your genre as well. But no, you totally got me, because I'm like, okay, I know, your career background and that's, it's very, structured, very regimented. Maybe you like to free out
Yeah.
yourself up with that. But no, there you go. I love that you're trying to do it though. I'd really love to know how that's working for you.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it
But
can be a surprise.
yeah, yes. But I find clients, like clients that are pantsers, sometimes I find them more difficult to work with
Yes.
because, trying to bring some structure to their scenes or their,
Yes.
manuscripts, it's a real
Mm,
challenge.
yeah.
I,
And they'd struggle with your one story concept
yes.
as well. And that's, you sort of, as a plotter, you know that one story before you start. As a
Mm.
pantser, you have to work it out at the end. That's
Yes, that's right.
Oh my goodness. So much gold. So what's next for you? Is Jett Cooper going to be part of a series, or are you working on something else at the moment?
So
Was it?
I am working on something else, but Jet is actually going to have a companion novel. So I'm going to
Mm.
write a story about Ella as
Ah,
well. So because
okay.
I
Yes.
think she wants to tell her story as well. So she has a
Yes.
different one and she wants to tell hers.
So she doesn't want
Um,
Jett taking all the limelight.
no,
And fair
no,
enough too.
she's got her own competitive streak as well. And if he's got a
Yeah.
book, then she wants one as well.
100%. 100%. Oh, good. So yeah, so you're working on that. And did you say there was something else as
Yeah,
well that you?
so I just to give myself a break. So I don't know about you, but I like if I'm writing something, I can think about another story in the background as well.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'm writing a young adult fantasy espionage, so spy
Oh.
story at the moment. So, and that's just giving me a bit of breathing space to go out of that aviation world, which is
Mm,
very technical, into something a bit more fantastical.
yes.
But in the meantime, I'm sitting there in the back of my head plotting out, wow, now if she does this, then this happens. So I'm very lucky that I can kind of do one thing and think slightly about the other thing without having the
Yes.
pressure of having to come up with that. So
Mm.
that's what I'm doing at the moment because I'm not busy enough, right?
Yeah, I know. Because I'm surprised you don't have three projects actually. You can jump from, I think, if you reach a point where you're a little bit stuck on one, you can
Yes,
unstick it by working on something else. And then,
absolutely.
what do I feel? What's pulling me today?
Yes.
What did I just come up with? And some people can operate like that. I know I can. That could be why there's a whole heap of unfinished manuscripts in my drawer as well. Um, but I know other people are like, no, I've started this. I can't think about anything else until I've finished. And again, that's all part of your individual writing process, really, isn't it? So,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to that sequel as
Oh,
well.
good.
So yes, you'll have to let us all know when it comes out. So this has been great, Melanie. I've really appreciated you coming on. And it's nice to, I mean, it's always nice to talk to authors, but it's also nice to talk to authors who also do other stuff that I do as
Yes,
well,
yes.
and just to find out that the editing process as an editor is also very different, depending on, you have your process and that sort of thing. So I know I've learned something from you
Oh,
today, which has
thank you.
been fantastic. Thank you. Um, and yeah, so before we go, can you let everybody know where they can find you, where they can purchase Jett Cooper and your upcoming books when they're ready, and also if you, I don't know if you do school visits or anything like that. If you don't, you should be. And how people can get in touch with you for talks and to purchase your books.
Oh, lovely. Well, I really enjoyed it too, Kelly. So thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I
Oh,
do really appreciate it.
I'm so
Yeah,
pleased
it's
when you
hard.
contacted
It can
me.
be hard, can't it?
Yes, yes, yeah.
But people can find me on my website, which is just melaniehill.au.
Mhm.
And there are also books on there that have where you can find my paperback of Jett
Mhm.
Cooper or the ebook. So
Excellent.
please go there and it's on the landing page so people will see it straight away.
Perfect.
But if you would like to buy the book directly from me, then please email me at melaniehillediting, and that's all one word,
Mhm.
at gmail.com. And yes, I do school visits. And, if you've ever seen me talk about flying and being around aircraft, I do really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
especially as an artistic person working in a very science engineering
Mm.
environment, it's kind of nice to combine the two of those topics.
You do have that added element, don't you? And most authors do. You can go in and talk about other things, but I can see, because I used to be a teacher, and I'd be like, oh, that would be awesome because could get you in to talk about engineering or about girls in science, which is still a thing,
Hmm.
but also about your book. So if you're a teacher, get in touch with Melanie just through your email. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep,
perfect. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. I hope you sell lots of books and continue to write more, whether they're plotted or pantsed. It doesn't really matter as long as they're good stories. And thank you so much. And yeah, do let us know when the sequel comes out for
I
Jett
will.
Cooper.
I
Yeah,
will.
awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thanks, Kelly.